Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to episode 1 of season 2 of DuckTales, 2017 specifically. So yeah, this won the poll, and this is going to kind of how it's going to be from now on. I'm not going to actually make a video announcing the poll winner. It's just going to be like when the next day comes up, when that's going to when the winner would be, airing. That's just going to be when it's going to be revealed. I guess kind of like how Rarity Dash does things. Um, like how when he does his movie polls, it's like you don't know what's actually going to win until it actually pops up in your feed. It's going to be the same way here. Now, granted, you can follow the poll and see who's winning, and you could tell who's going to win. Sure. But still, I'm not going to actually make a reveal video anymore because it's just it's not necessary. It takes too much time, and I just don't feel like it's necessary to make a big reveal video on what won. Again, when you could just go check it yourself or wait until it shows up. Or heck, you could just wait till I change the channel banner, whether on here or on Twitter. So you could see it there. But yeah, so DuckTales. Last we left off at the end of Season 1, Magica De Spell had finally gotten her full form back, thanks to Lena, who was never actually her niece, but rather basically a piece of Magica's shadow brought to life through her magic. However, Lena had gotten, like, her own free will. She had gained her own free will, her own feelings, her own thoughts, and which I don't think was ever necessarily Magica's plan, but it was put up, it was, like, it did happen, which brings in a lot of questions on morality and ethics and stuff, and, like, do you consider Lena, like, her own person, or still just a piece of Magica's, shadow? Does she count as a living, thinking, like, self-reliant being, basically? And although she's mostly gone, I think like, her shadow is still around or something, like a shadow version of herself. She definitely left a great impact on the series and was a great character. Just for the moral quandary that her character brought upon, not only with what I had just talked about, but also with her own moral quandaries as a character, as well as that of Webby, her best friend. But Magica was defeated thanks to pretty much everyone. Even Donald helped. And we kind of left off on this big cliffhanger, if I remember right, showing that the mother, Huey, Dewey, and Louie's mother, is still alive and basically trapped on the moon. The Spear of Selene, which was a spaceship she had been building, basically got her trapped up there. It wasn't, like, complete. It wasn't, like, completely right. So she's trapped up there, and she wants to be able to get back, obviously. I mean, it does raise questions as how she could have survived up there for that long, but it's a cartoon. I guess you have to let some things go, especially for a show like DuckTales. But yeah, I don't really know much of anything about where this is going. I've seen, like, a couple of screenshots and stuff here and there, but I don't even remember most of them. Pretty much any of them, honestly. I don't remember, like, what was shown in them or anything. I do know Season 2 recently finished, and I did wait. I did want to wait for this series, really, to finish before I really got into it, or at least get far along. That's why it's taken so long to get to Season 2. And the big reason being, I didn't want to have to wait because of its hectic airing schedule. Like a lot of shows these days, it had this schedule where it's like, oh, we'll release, like, a set of episodes now, but then you'll have to wait months and months for the next episodes. And it's like, I've never liked that. I much prefer the weekly release schedule that stuff like MLP has. Even despite other countries releasing episodes early, which is complete and utter bullshit, but I'm not going to get into that. Um, I like the weekly release schedule thing, and I mean the same thing can go for pretty much any anime. I think it fits. I think it works best in terms of release. It allows for continuous viewing, but at the same time, it doesn't give you too much at a time, so you're able to process things and properly think about things between episodes. I've already talked about in the past why I don't like binging shows for the most part. There are some few exceptions where I can binge something, but I don't usually like binging shows because I feel like it hurts the overall quality, and you're just going through it too quickly. You don't have time to think about anything, and as such, you don't end up appreciating certain nuances and ideas as much as you would have if it were a weekly release, which is why Netflix bothers me so much. Um, and yeah, and definitely why I would never have waited for Carol and Tuesday to air on Netflix before, checking it out on my own. And I'm still gonna watch it again on Netflix, especially because of the dub. But yeah, but shows like that, it's like, yeah, I'm gonna watch them on my own first, or if they're on Netflix, I want to really want to watch them, then I'm gonna pace myself out with them, like I'm trying to do with what's it called, 12 Forever currently. I watched a few episodes last night, but I'm going to take a break from it now and wait to watch some more, maybe maybe tomorrow, because I don't want to rush through it too quickly. I want to appreciate what we have and everything. And I'll be honest, so far the show's kind of mediocre, except for the Butt Witch and Esther. Esther, who is probably the most likable of the main heroes, probably the only likable one of the main heroes. Let's be honest. And then there's the Butt Witch, who is just perfect in every way. She is waifu. But DuckTales. So yeah, I don't know much of anything that's going to be happening with this episode or this season in general. I don't even know like what they're going to do for a main plot line. I assume it's going to have to do with the mother. But like in terms of antagonists, I mean, they're probably going to have like, the Beagle Boys and whatnot, as always. Um, but like, who will be a main antagonist for this season? Because Magica's kind of gone, unless they plan on bringing her back again. But it'd feel too soon. I don't know. I feel like they almost jumped the gun on Magica because she is the main antagonist of DuckTales overall. She is the kind of end game boss. So having her be the main villain in season one almost feels like it was kind of rushed. Um, I feel like they should have held off on her for a bit and done something else for the big finale of season one. Again, unless they plan on bringing her back or even maybe creating this whole new villain who's even bigger and stronger than her, which is possible, which is very possible. But I don't know. It's just with a show like DuckTales, with its recognizability from, the 80s and shit, I feel like you would want to have Magica be the main villain. I don't know. It just seems like it would make the most sense. One thing I will say that I do know about the season, the one thing that I can think of for sure, and I want to be upfront right away with this about you. I do know that Darkwing Duck has some kind of point to this season at some point. I don't know exactly when in the season it is, but I know there's an episode that focuses on Darkwing Duck and actually has the character in it. Um, I don't know if his daughter appears at all. I haven't heard anything about that, but I know he's in there and everything. And that's pretty much it, but I do know he's there, and I want to just tell you guys that right away. I want to be upfront and honest with you guys about that, about what I know. That's the big thing I know. That's, again, anything else I can think of is, well, I mean, I can't think of it. I can't think of exactly what else I did see leading up to this, but that one is a big one. Um, and I assume their mother's going to have, like I said, I assume their mother's going to have a big focus. I just don't know how she's going to get back. I don't know, like, what they're going to do with her. I'm excited to find out, though, because that was a great cliffhanger it left out on, and their mother has been a big focus of the series. Season 1 had a huge focus on her. And hell, just finding out more about her and finding out where she is and what happened to her, all of that jazz. Um, so yeah, I'm hoping we get more of that. And I don't know if I mentioned in my season 1 reactions, which I think were actually on the old channel. Were they on the old channel or are they on this channel? Now I'm not even sure. Either way, I think I mentioned in my season 1 reactions, but just to be safe, and I'll mention it again. I do think that this new series, and this may be unpopular, I do think this new series is vastly better to the original DuckTales. And the reason for that is because, one, Huey, Dewey, and Louie are different from each other. In the original series, they were just very much the same character, just with different color hats and shirts. They were very much the same. But in this, they actually have divergent personalities, and it makes them come across as, fully fleshed out. Webby is a better character, because in the original, she was annoying as fuck. In this, she's actually one of the best characters. Scrooge is mostly the same, but he's more entertaining and fun here. And I think David Tennant being his voice does help with that. Glomgold and the Beagle Boys are handled better. The stories, the themes, the ideas, everything is just handled in a much better, well-written way. And that's nothing against the original DuckTales. I enjoyed the original DuckTales, very much so. But when you really look back on it, it had its issues. It wasn't a perfect show. And honestly, I think the nostalgia behind it and the theme song being so fucking amazing is what a lot of people tend to bring up the most in their nostalgia with it, and as to why they liked it, rather than, story and characters as much. And again, people bring up stuff like, oh, the adventurous aspect of it, the different unique things they looked at and did and everything. And it's like, yeah, sure. But this series does all of that so much better. It does the characters, the stories, the unique adventures. And again, it has a lot more heart, a lot more depth, a lot more just perfection in its writing. It's honestly just better in every way. It just really is. So, yeah, I just, I wanted to reiterate that in case I didn't say that in my initial season 1 reactions and all. But yeah, I am very much excited to see where this goes. So we're just going to get on with it. We're going to stop wasting time. So when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the reaction to the, or follow the link in the description. I'm going to start this over because I fucked up somewhere. When the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go down to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episode. So that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. Okay, and we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. Okay, so it's interesting that they chose to start off season 2 with a Louis-focused episode. All of the characters really had a good amount of screen time and stuff, but it was definitely Louis-focused. So Louis was getting sick of their adventures, feeling that it's too predictable and just too much for him to handle. So he tries to get them to just take a night off, which honestly is fair. Like, I can understand wanting to just have a night off to just spend time, do something else, play games or whatever. And things go really wrong. So, on top of Scrooge being insanely competitive, we also have some gadgetry shenanigans thrown in with the shrink ray and these, like, miniature people. And in the end, we find out that the reason all this is going down, the reason Louis been, you know, feeling this way and everything, mainly centers around the fact that he feels inadequate compared to everyone else. Huey and Scrooge have been showing some great teamwork. Webby and Dewey have been showing great teamwork. Everyone seems to have gotten their stride and seems to be doing extremely well on these adventures, except him. He feels that he's falling behind, feels that he's, again, inadequate. And this is something I can very much relate to. I have a lot of feelings of inadequacy in a lot of different ways. When it comes to talent, skills, romance, a lot of things. I feel inadequate a lot. Hell, damn near constantly. And this episode is all about like realizing and accepting and utilizing what you are good at. In Louis' case, it's coming to terms with the fact that he's the plan guy. He's the Sokka of this show, making an Avatar: The Last Airbender reference. Because this very much feels like that. I mean, think about it. In Avatar: The Last Airbender, there was a point where Sokka was feeling inadequate, being around all of these great benders who could do so much, and him only having his boomerang. Um, and in that, it acknowledged he's the plan guy. He's the strategic mind of the group. But he wanted something else. He wanted to feel like he was actually doing something more for the effort. And so he learned sword training. But it was through this that he also came to realize how he had been helping and how he was useful to the group already. He just was able to add in more as well, which is completely fair. In this, with Louis, he more along the lines of realizes what he already had. It's not that he's trying to add more. It's more of like coming to terms with everything that he had been able to do, just hadn't realized. And I think that's great. I think that it works really well. Because Louis is kind of the more comical, more ridiculous and goofy one of the group. Um, Dewey is definitely the more adventurous one, who is definitely the most suited to work with Webby, obviously, on these adventures. Huey is definitely the brains of the operation. He's definitely got the skill set to be able to handle a lot of the thinking in regards to these adventures, which does work well with Scrooge, who has been on so many of these. He's able to do the same. But then we have Louis, who's always just kind of been almost like the comic relief, but he's added plenty to it as well. But he's realizing now that his specific skill set is because he's realizing that these adventures tend to go very similarly, and he's able to analyze the different little things that happen and make judgment calls based on it. He's able to make plans. He's not just the smart one. He can't just it's not just that he can tell how a trap is going to work or whatnot, like Huey. No, he actually is able to make a plan as to how to get past that trap, how to sidestep every little thing. And even though we didn't see him really handle that well at the beginning, that's because he didn't realize that he could do it then. He was down on himself at that point still. So I like that we're getting that, and I hope we get that more in future episodes. We get to see Louis handle this a lot better. And I like that Scrooge is the one who helps him realize this, that Scrooge is super supportive of him and helpful and just honestly a great, great, great uncle. And I mean, the first two greats, I mean, in terms of his, quality as a great uncle. An awesome great uncle. He's being just really, really helpful for his nephew here. And it's wonderful to see. It's great to see how close Scrooge has become to them. Because you remember in the beginning of the series, he really didn't want them there. He did warm up to them fairly quickly, but still. At this point, by the time season 2 has come around, yeah, they're as close as thieves. And it's great to see that here. It's great to see that he's probably a bit upset, sure, but he doesn't show that. Instead, he shows support. Instead, he acknowledges his nephew's talents and even encourages him to use them and encourages him on how to use them. He's not focusing on all the junk that happened, but rather what Huey did about it. Or not Huey, Louie. What Louie did about it. And I like that. I also like the little mini lesson in it about family, on how family sometimes can get on your nerves, how you can have very little things in common, or even be bad at working together in certain situations, while in others you are great working together, and that's what makes you family. Yeah, you're going to have these issues. You're going to get on each other's nerves every now and again. There are going to be points where you don't work well together or have issues with each other. But that's part of what being family entails. Because there's going to be just as many great moments. There's going to be just as many moments where you do work extremely well together. I mean, we see it in this episode, not only just with Dewey and Webby, but we see it with Scrooge and Donald. Like, these two really don't get along that well. And they make a very, very notable point of that in this episode. But at the same time, they work extremely well together on these games. And while not perfect, like, you saw that the charades, you saw how many they got right and how quickly they were getting them right. Because Donald knows what to do in that kind of situation and how to act in order to get that point across to Scrooge. And Scrooge knows how to interpret Donald. And again, even though they were arguing on that last one, the Momanticore, yeah, they did extremely well together. And then you see, like, in the adventure, you see Webby and Dewey doing extremely well at pretty much everything working together. But then in the games, they're having trouble and arguing and not being able to interpret each other. It's all about those different scenarios. And I like that. I think that's actually a very great thing to teach to the viewers, whether they be kids, adults, whatever. Because it shows that it's not perfect. Family is not perfect. It's not going to be. And you shouldn't expect it to be. But in a way, that's what makes it perfect. It's like that one Rise Against song. Oh, how did the lyrics go exactly? It's like, you're far from perfect. No, I think it's we. We are far from perfect, but we're perfect as we are. And it's basically saying, it's like, yeah, we're not perfect. We have issues. There are problems. But that, in and of itself, is what makes us perfect. That is what makes us who we are and who we need to be and what we need to be. But those little imperfections are part of us. And they're not something to be disgusted by or hated. And there's nothing wrong with trying to fix your imperfections, but that doesn't mean that you should look at them as, like, problems that need to be fixed necessarily. Look at them as a part of you. And if it's something that hinders you more than it helps, sure, work to fix it. If it's something that's fine, that you can live with, then okay. Just acknowledge that it's a part of you and that you're always going to have problems. No matter how many you fix, there's always going to be issues. There's always going to be things holding you back, and there's always going to be little flaws here and there. I've always stood by that belief that you should never try to be perfect, because in trying to be perfect, you're just going to fail. I mean, hell, one episode of MLP in this season even touched on that topic, that the chase after perfection is basically impossible and it's just going to destroy you. That you have to accept that you're not going to be perfect. That you have to accept that things can't be perfect. So yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. It was also a good way to get back into things without overwhelming us. Like, yeah, it did have a good Indiana Jones style adventure at the beginning, but most of the episode was very character focused instead. So it didn't overwhelm us with a lot right from the bat. Like, even with the stuff with their mom and all, it didn't, like, hit us over the head with it too much. It was definitely a focus there, but it wasn't, like, too over the top with it. It didn't, like, go overboard. And I think that was a good thing, just kind of a way to ease us into the season. They can get further into that stuff later on, which I definitely think they will. But yeah, I think that this was a great first episode. It really just did well. And it brought me back into it. Yeah, I mean, it's been a while since I watched this show. So I'm very glad to get more into this. And yeah, this is definitely going to be one that is very, very likely not going to be dropped. Because one, it's good for reactions. Two, it's just good. It's a damn good show. So yeah, this will definitely be continuing on, so you guys won't have to worry about that. And I hope that this season ends up being really good. I don't expect every episode to hit it out of the park, but I'm hoping that this season is still the quality I would expect from this show. So tell me down in the comments below what you thought of this episode of DuckTales Season 2. And thank you all so much for tuning in. For now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and thank you so much for tuning in to today's video. If you want to check out any of my social media links and more, please check them out over to the side. And if you have any comments, questions, concerns, please leave those down below. In the meantime, though, thank you so much once again for tuning in. For now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.